in your Africa. I believe in my Africa. Do you believe in your Africa? I believe in my Africa. We better than we think we are. Beyond the boundaries we fail as we are fire. When you man a body they love. The sky's the limit, so high we will go. Come as a papa, come a linger don, linger man a body. Africa believe, lay for love. I believe in my Africa. Oh, do you believe in your Africa? I believe in my Africa. Do you believe in your Africa? I believe in my Africa. Ay, 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 I salute to our heroes. I see Bonango Mandela Tina, Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, Sesan Sadauda Jawara. To all my heroes, I rise and I toast. Oh, do you believe in your Africa? I believe in my Africa. Do you believe in your Africa? I believe in my Africa. Ay, 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 she made it.
Enterprise Edge. There's something great in me, oh, a strength in me, oh, a power in me, oh, it makes me wanna fly. Do you wanna fly? Tell me as I fly. Do you wanna fly? I've got the continent. I can fly. Soaring in the sky. I believe I can fly. Enterprise. I believe I can fly. With Enterprise. There's something great in me, oh, a strength in me, oh, a power in me, oh, it makes me wanna fly. Do you wanna fly? Tell me as I fly. Do you wanna fly? I've got the continent. I can fly. Soaring in the sky. I believe I can fly. Enterprise. I believe I can fly. With Enterprise. leadership. We are the pillars of Africa.
How has been our day? Welcome to Ascend 40th anniversary, Ascend Defense School 40th anniversary. Today is day 2, and I'm very sure we have so much to gain today. So before we start, we are starting already, and I would like us to take our Ascend anthem. Technical. All right, thank you very much. We are once again welcome. Okay, please for everybody that is around now, I want us to please wait a little so other people can also join and benefit from this. So we don't want to start very quickly. So please. Okay. All right. So yeah, so I'm sorry for that. Up next is the founder of Accent Business Academy. He's going to be giving us a brief introduction on Accent Business Academy and work with them. Thank you very much. And
Good day, everyone. It's great to be here again, and I'd like to welcome particularly guest speaker for today. That's in person of Sesan. Thank you very much, sir, for and to do a brief introduction about the Business Academy. I thought we did this yesterday, but then again, I'll do just a brief one. At some reason, in 2018. Since 2018, we have been training young people, particularly in entrepreneurship. Our brand of entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship for change and national transformation. That's our focus, and that's what has been helping us to do. Since 2018, trained over 100 young persons. We started with young persons. We discovered along the line that even the oldies would not want our training to go on. So we found quite a number of old people joining in our training also. But basically, our entrepreneurship training has been entrepreneurship for change and national transformation. Today, we're on the second bit of our 4th anniversary program, and we have a distinguished African, I call him a young African, but of course in content and ability is much more than we want to count his age to be. Very quickly, I'd like to mention that over the years, we have been used to nations being described as prosperous based on their raw materials and professional carriages. But this being the technology age, it's also been discovered that for a nation to be termed as and described as prosperous, it must have a large number of young people who are vibrant, who are, who are very adept in use of technology, and of course, full of energy, innovative, entrepreneurial. These are the qualities that are found in nations that are described as developed nations today. So we've gone past the age of judging a nation as being developed based on raw materials, like I said. So also individuals are said to be prosperous and wealthy in this age based on the capacities that they carry. And that's why today we're looking at what we call technopreneurship, breaking the barriers and the box. What are the barriers? What is the box? Our guest speaker today will be taking us through that. And our guest speaker is none other than the one I introduced much earlier, and that's Gbenga Sesan. Oluwatife will go ahead and do a citation on the guest speaker, and afterwards we'll go into the lecture proper.
All right, thank you, everyone. Mr. Gbenga Sesan, born on 27th July 1977, a social entrepreneur who delivers information and communication technology for development, ICT for individuals, institutions, nations, states, regional entities, and international communities. His educational background. He graduated as an electronic and electrical engineer at Obafemi University in the year 2002. Gbenga Sesan completed executive education programs at Lagos Business School, New York Group of Technology, Transfer, Oxford University, Harvard University, Stanford University, Santa Clara University, and University of the Pacific. His career background. Gbenga Sesan is a former member of the United Nations Community of E-Leaders in Youth and ICT. He is a Cyber Steward Fellow, Trans Montana Forum Fellow, Archbishop Desmond Tutu Leadership Fellow. He is also an Ashoka Fellow. He is also our Common Future and Thoughts Fellow. Gbenga Sesan served as a member of the Presidential Committee on Harmonization of Information Technology, Communications and Broadcasting Sectors in 2006, and Roadmap for the Achievement of Accelerated University Broadband Infrastructure and Service Provision in 2019. In 2022, the United States Secretary General Anthony Guterres appointed Gbenga Sesan to serve on the inaugural Internet Governance Forum IGF Leadership Panel. His honors and awards. In 2012, was listed by CNN as one of the 10 leading African tech voices on Twitter. In 2012, still, he was also listed by Ventures Africa as one of the 40 African legends under 40. In 2014, too, Share Foundation Social Entrepreneur of the Year 2014. So this is just a little we are going to talk about on Mr. Gbenga Sesan. So yeah, I would like to welcome Mr. Gbenga Sesan for this lecture. And I want us to prepare our notepads. I want us to prepare our minds and be able, we should open our hearts to receive in this session. So thank you very much. I hand over to Mr. Gbenga Sesan.
Trendy beat.
If you can hear me now.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, thank you for, of course, Bro Wale Akinyomi is not a stranger to me. So when he asked that I come to do this, my immediate answer was one word: yes. For clear reasons, because I very strongly believe in the idea behind this, and I also believe that the topic for today is extremely important for us. Not just as young people, but as Africans, a combination of both. And my joy in having this conversation today comes from many things, including the fact that this is a very pivotal moment for us as Africans, and also because I think that when you look at history, there wasn't any time that we had the number of tools, resources, and opportunities for young people that we now have. And that for me is a great opportunity for us. I'm supposed to talk about technopreneurship, breaking the box and the barriers. And I think that's very clear, in terms of what we need to do. I do not need to define technopreneurship, but I want to speak about that very quickly, because I know that there is a tendency for certain people to think, oh, some people are the tech people, they are the technopreneurs. We are not the technopreneurs. But I want to address that that assumption. And the reason I'm addressing that assumption is because of its importance. And I say that because not only is it important to address the assumption that tech is for some people, but it's absolutely important for us to address that, so that there will be no assumption that some people are the geeks who work in tech. And I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of people say things like, oh, some people are tech people, but clearly it is not tech. Technopreneurship is a play on words on tech and entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, of course, is for everyone who is interested in it. Of course, there are also intrapreneurs who do not start something on their own, but within an existing system do innovative things. And there are also people who are managers who do not have to start anything on their own. And technology is something that everyone can definitely apply. My own journey into tech started not by accident, but also by curiosity. I was denied access to computers in my secondary school in 1991, Federal Government College Idoani, and that piqued my interest. That was what led me to go to computer school. That this thing that is said I cannot learn, I want to learn it. But that's many years ago. Now, tech is in every area of our lives. It's in how we meet. We're meeting on Zoom. It's in how we work. 80% of my work is done virtually. I work for an organization that has team members in 7 countries across the African continent. And that means that when we have meetings, it has to be virtual, even if some people are in the same location. So that assumption that tech is for some people is the first thing that I want to shatter, that I want to completely remove from the table, because technology applies to everything from agriculture to zoology. Technology applies to everything that we do in our everyday lives. And so when we talk about technopreneurship, we're not talking about people who are geeks, who write codes. We're talking about people who apply technology in whatever entrepreneurship venture that they're interested in. And having said that, I can now go ahead and talk about the challenges and some of the myths and some of the things that we need to definitely address. The first for me is what I just talked about, that assumption that there is a box that some people are in. They are tech people, we're not tech people. And I know that there will be affiliations. There will be people who sort of feel naturally inclined, maybe because they studied something related to technology, maybe because they went to a school that had technology in its name. If you went to FUTA, for example, you probably feel more techie than a few other people. The university I attended did not have technology in its name. But it's important for us to understand that there is no box with tech written on it. In fact, if anything exists with tech written on it, it is actually applications. So the question is not, am I a tech person? The question is, how do I apply technology in anything that I do? How do I apply technology in the sales process? So for example, many years ago, if you made clothes, like my niece, and you want to sell them, what you will do will be to open a shop on maybe Arakale, or in Akure, or say a Yaba in Lagos or something like that, and make it look prominent so that people will see you when they're on the road. But many years later, it's different. People don't even bother setting up websites anymore. Now they just go on Instagram, and Instagram has responded to that to allow them to sell. Now, so first of all, it's the fact that we need to understand that there is no limitation in terms of the dichotomy of tech people and others. The second box, we have this, saying that, oh, think outside the box, and we joke about it and say that, well, the interesting thing is that you shouldn't only think outside the box, you should even completely eliminate the box and kick it away, in the first place. One of the challenges, and this is something I would love to address, one of the barriers, to entry for technopreneurship is understanding of tech. There is this presentation will not focus a lot more on the entrepreneurship aspect, but will focus a lot more on the tech aspect. Obviously, it's tech and entrepreneurship, but I'll focus a lot more on the tech because that's what I know. Yes, I'm a social entrepreneur. Yes, I understand entrepreneurship, but I want to focus a lot more on the tech, not because entrepreneurship is not an important topic, but also because entrepreneurship is an experience that many of us, if not all, have had. I know some people will say things like, oh, I've never been an entrepreneur, but guess what? The woman on your street who you always used to buy sugar from, the woman on your street who travels and comes back with shoes, or someone that you know, or even you, trade by barter and things that you have done in school, things you have done to, to earn resources, I've given you some experiences of entrepreneurship, of how to engage with enterprise. So I said the first challenge is knowledge. The problem with the knowledge that people need to excel as technopreneurs is that at times it is difficult to know what area of technology to dive into. I get people asking me questions all the time. Gbenga, I heard that data science is now the new thing. Should I do this? If you don't remember anything else I say today, please remember this. Do not, I say it again, do not, I'm saying again for emphasis, do not study what is in vogue. Study what you need. Don't go paying to learn what is on offer. Seek to learn what you need. And I will explain both. What is on offer is what the computer school has to offer you. NIT will come to you and say, oh, we teach computer appreciation, we teach Java. The question is that what you need to study? If that's what you need to study, then by all means, go there. Go to Aptech, go to NIT, go to HIT, go to all the computer schools, or go to New Light, which I went to. I hope it still exists. But the question that you need to answer is, what do you need? And this is where I tell people you need to spend some time doing an analysis. What are you doing? If what I'm doing, for example, is running a nonprofit, which is what I do, I will ask myself, what are the processes involved and what technology tools are then available for me to do the work that I do? So I want to do meetings. I want to have meetings. I need Zoom as a tech platform. I want to schedule my meetings so that there's no clash, so that when I say I'll be somewhere at 4, I'm there at 4, or if something changes, I'm able to move things around. And if I can't, I communicate it. What do I use? I use my calendar, such that on my calendar, there's a link to the meeting. And that is the definition of what I need as a tech tool or understanding of a tech platform. And that's what I need to learn. I have good news for you. More often than not, what you need to learn is available for free online. I'm writing a book now. So the organization I run is 15 years old, 15 and a half. We turned 15 last year in July. And I decided, before I forget many of the things I've learned, let me start writing. And when I started writing, something that I realized was that, I knew this before, but it wasn't as heavy on my mind as when I started putting it down on Google Docs. I was going to say on paper, but on Google Docs. And I realized that the 1 year, so when I went to IFE to study electrical engineering, and in 1990, I got in 1995. In 1996, ASU, if anybody remembers, there was trouble because Abacha had, fired the ASU president before he left, and there was now, there was trouble, and the lecturers went on strike. ASU went on strike. SANU went on strike. All of the unions basically went on strike. Students also protested, and that led to us having like a 1 year break. And so I stayed back on campus because at that time, OAU had just put together, I think maybe 100 computers that had internet access and things like that. And for us to use them, we had to write our names down, to get 30 minutes of using the computers. And when students were on campus, I would write Gbenga Sesan, Gbenga Olabisi Sesan, just different versions of my name so that I would get more than 30 minutes, per day. But when everybody went home, I realized, oh, wait a second, the computers are there. So I sent a friend of mine with a letter to my dad to let him know, well, because I knew if I'd gone home to tell him that I wanted to go back to campus, he would have laughed and said, my friend, sit down there, come and wash the car. So I sent a letter through someone to him, bio to my friend, and I said, give it to my dad. And the letter basically said, Daddy, I'm sorry, I'm not coming home. I am sorry, I won't be able to fetch water or wash OD 1822A. That's the number of the white Passat that we used at the time. But I promise you, my future will be bright because I'm going to learn how to use computers and things like that. Of course, my dad made a joke with my friend Bayo that your friend sent you to bring this letter to me, and you are going to your house to meet your dad, right? And I think my friend got the joke. But I stayed back, and I remember it was myself, Titi Akinsomi, and Deolu Ashai, my friends, who will go there. I was staying in Angola Hall, which is about almost 3 or so kilometers away from the computer building. So at some point I stopped going back to Angola Hall to sleep. I would just sleep in the computer building. And that 1 year, interesting enough, it was also one period where, I didn't have a lot of money, so there was not as much food, so I decided to pray and fast. And I'm sure that some of you on this call may, understand that. There was no food anyway, so I had only 1 meal per day, so I might as well just convert it into a spiritual exercise. So for 1 year, I was praying and fasting and going to the computer lab, at times just staying there. And I realized that there was nothing that my friends had paid money for at NIT at the time that I couldn't find online for free. But guess what? That was 1996. This is 2022, 26 years later. There's a lot more resources. There are a lot more resources online. There's nothing you want to learn today that is not on Coursera. There's nothing you want to learn today that is not available for free on YouTube. The question is always, how desperate are you? I was desperate enough to stay back on campus for 1 year and to learn. And that literally changed my life. That was what laid the foundation for the organization I run today. That's what laid the foundation for my entire career. You listen to my profile and you're like, oh, he has done this, he has done that. But guess what? The foundation for that was laid in 1996 and the years before. And that's why every time I have a chance to speak with, young people or other people who are not as young, but like myself, young at heart, I say to us that the only difference between those who succeed as technopreneurs and those who don't is desperation. Whatever you're not desperate enough to do, you can never achieve. And I think it's very simple, because if you're not desperate enough, you will not see opportunities where others think they don't exist. A very simple example, seated in this study, I'm looking out through this window, and all I can see is a view with trees, some buildings, and things like that. But if my wife, who trained as an architect before she went on to do a PhD in sociology, if she sits here, she sees something entirely different. She sees structures in the buildings. I don't see them. Okay, now I think I can see them because I've said that. But she sees them. She knows this is a French door. This is this. What you're not desperate enough, or you haven't put time together to study about, you won't see. So that first barrier that, and I want to say that that barrier is actually an assumed barrier. The barrier of knowledge towards technopreneurship is a lot assumed because people say things like, oh, and I really hope we can have some time for questions. If you could just also send me in the chat to let me know how much time I have so that I can plan that, a bit better. I know this is 4:32. Let me know how much longer I need to speak, and then I'll, shape that, and then we'll take some time for questions and answers. And I'm hoping we can discuss some practical questions that you have about the things you want to learn. And if I know where they are, I'll point you to it. I was talking to two people in church a few weeks ago, and one of them said he wanted to learn this programming language. The other one said he wanted to learn, something else. And I said, go to this website. They got to the website. Not only did they find what they were looking for, but they realized there were scholarships. Interesting enough, I'm on the board of that company, but I didn't even know we were offering scholarships. But if you're not desperate enough to learn, you won't learn. The reality for me is that most of the things that I use in my work today, I didn't go to school to study them. I may have gone to many schools across the world, but to be honest, most of those things are for exposure. Most of those things are not the basic foundational knowledge that determine the things that I do today. I am a stickler for using my calendar because I know it can be very, there's a lot of pressure that comes from having to do many things at the same time. And that did not start because I went to school to study it. That came from Federal Government College Idoani, where as a junior student, if I didn't stand up at 6 a.m. and the bell goes off at 6:30, whoever is on the floor, on their bunk, on their bed, is going to be the one to fetch water for seniors. So I knew that by 6, I had to be up. By 6:30, I had to be in the bathroom, because if seniors meet you in the bathroom at 6:45, you become the stuff of jokes. They start telling you, oh my God, he looks small. Look at him. Look at his body and things like that. And I didn't want any of that. And so my day was structured, and every day since secondary school, I began to plan my time. And the interesting thing about that is that there were no tools at the time for it. Now there's Google Calendar. It can help you schedule. Now there are AI tools that can even help you suggest how you should spend your day. So number one, there is no learning barrier. It is assumed, but even if you feel there's a learning barrier, you can take advantage of online platforms to learn. I've mentioned many, I've mentioned Coursera, I've mentioned YouTube. If anyone here is interested, for example, in project management, the best knowledge of project management that I've seen expressed is in a YouTube video created by Google team members, about 3 to 4 hours of training on, on project management by Google itself, put on YouTube. Many people pay thousands of dollars to learn that. I'll give you a very practical example. Last year, my organization was supposed to pay, I think about, I don't remember, $18,000 or $28,000 to a team of people to come and talk to us about design thinking. Now, this is something I had, sort of been engaging in for a while, but I thought, let me not be the one to discuss with the team, because we can get people to do it. But it just so happened that the people we were going to pay a lot of money, to, when we asked a lot more questions and said, okay, which topics are you going to cover online? We realized that, they have a big name, but they actually didn't understand our own sector. So I chose to lead it. And what did I do? I told my executive assistant, look at these websites, get the relevant videos, put it in a slide deck, arrange it. We spent one day on that training, and everyone on the team agreed that all of the resources looked like magic, but they were practical. It was all there online for free. We were going to have a conversation amongst ourselves as the members of the 7 members of the leadership team. And I went to LinkedIn Learning, and I saw a video that had exactly what we were trying to discuss. When I read books, I love to recommend books when I read them. So last year, I read, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And I realized that, guess what? There are actually 1-minute video summaries of books. And see, money is never a barrier if you're desperate enough. So, barrier of knowledge, number one. The second barrier is the barrier of resources. And I hear this a lot. There's no money. If you can just give me money, just go, let me do this thing. Okay. I want to be careful, because when I was much younger and I asked the question about, oh, sir, I don't have money, but I want to do some things that require money. How can I get money? Many times the response I would get was, it's easy. Money is easy to find. And it always got me angry, because I'm like, if money is easy to find, why am I not finding it? Where is it? Show me the money. Where is it? But as I continued to work and continued to find luck, which of course is preparation, meeting with opportunities, I realized that they were right. But the problem was how they said it. They shouldn't have said, money is easy to find. What I wish they told me was that people will find and attract what, number one, they understand, number two, they work hard for, and number three, they manage well. And I'll say that again. What they understand, what they study for, and what they manage well. The interesting thing is that in understanding resources, okay, I agree. I'm beginning to see, I'm talking to Samsung SMA235F, and I'm wondering if that's someone from the Secret Service. If you're not from the Secret Service, please use your real name so we know it's you. All right, I have about 47 minutes. Beautiful. I mean, that was 4 minutes ago, so okay, 43 minutes. Perfect. Right. So, understanding resources, understanding money is starting from a place of understanding value. Money will follow value. Many years ago, I didn't have enough resources to pay for accommodation on campus. I mean, of course, my parents tried their best, and my parents, I mean, of course, they know that I love them to bits. They did their very best that civil servants could do. But many times, applying for regular accommodation was not going to work because it's all gone. People have paid for it, and I had to pay for accommodation, which was going to be, at that time, even at that time, extremely expensive. So I would squat. I got accommodation in year 1, thankfully. Year 2, I squatted. Year 3, I squatted. Year 4, I squatted before I went on my IT. But by the time I came back in year 5, I didn't have to squat. I could pay for the most expensive space on campus, Fajui or medical floor, 245 Faj. But I was smart. 3 of us put money together. Myself, Technopreneurship, and DK put money together and got one room. How did we get it? It's about understanding money. It's about understanding resources. It's about exchanging value for resources. Before then, I had created with a man who many people now know as Venerable or Reverend Gbenga or Shaw. When we were much younger, we wrote cards and Christmas cards, and then we would sell those Christmas cards, handwritten, handmade, and use the money to buy some suya and the rest of it to do some other things. And my point is about understanding resources. Yes, we all say it. Money is the barrier. If I had money, I would have, that's the reason why that song is very popular. My papa no be Dangote or Adeleke, but I go day okay. I mean, of course, your father is not Dangote. Your father is not Adeleke. It's not going to happen. You can't change it. They can't even adopt you anymore because their hands are tied. But the reality is when we understand that money exchanges in terms of value, then that becomes easier. And I'll give you another example. When I realized that I didn't have money to buy a computer, I then decided to go and learn how to use a computer, which I'd learned a bit. I learned how to use it very well. And I began to teach those people who had computers on medical floor. This was in my year 3 or so. I would teach people who had computers how to use their computers. That way, when they were on break, I literally had the computer. So I would learn more and then they would pay me more. That was why when I came back from my IT, I organized what we call WPD, Web Page Design, WPD 2000, Web Page Design 2000. And I was teaching people to design websites and they paid 2,000 naira each. This was in 2000, 1999, 2000. It was a lot of money at the time. No thanks to inflation. It was a lot of money at the time. I remember, I think it was about 16 people that signed up. So we had 32,000 naira between myself and OGMD, and we, got some other money from Tokbe, who's, I think he got some extra money from home because that's a police pension had just come or something like that. And we put the money together and got the accommodation. Understanding resources is about understanding that it's an exchange of value. What I know, I give to you to solve your problem, and you give me money in exchange for that, or you give me something that money can buy in exchange for that. So first of all is understanding it. And the second thing is to study for it. I know that many times, people just assume that those who have, and those who don't have, and those who have. By the way, this is where our sense of entitlement comes from. And it's not just an African thing. I heard people say things, well, Nigerians are very entitled. Human beings generally are very entitled. You look at a Forbes list and you say, this man has 30 billion. Can't he just give 3 billion dollars, convert to Naira, and share with the rest of us? But guess what? Whatever you don't create time to study for, you can never attract. Because if you don't understand it, or you don't study to improve your knowledge of it, then you can't understand how to manage it. It's the reason why there's a Wall Street. It's the reason why in Lagos there's a Broad Street. It's the reason why some people are stockbrokers and we give them our entire life's worth and savings and say manage it for us and grow it. It's the reason why people have estates that are managed by trust, or trusts that are managed for them, and things like that. And this is where I say that whatever you don't study for, even if you understand the way it works, unfortunately, you cannot even retain it. And this is how we're able to overcome that barrier of resources. Let's give a practical example. You need 130,000 Naira to study for something, or to buy a particular tool. You currently use a Mac 2018 and you want to upgrade. Not that you just want to, because want is different from need. You need to upgrade to a 2022 because it has a better chip, an A chip that you need that can help you do better graphic designs and things like that. And you need, of course, you don't need 120,000. I know it's a lot more than that. It's over 1 million, but let's assume that let's even say the price. You need 1.3 million Naira. The question is, do you understand how to exchange value for that? Many times, people will tell you things like, oh, sir, can I come and work with you? And almost 100% of the case, I just refer them to HR. But once in a while, somebody comes and says, oh, I've studied your organization. I've seen that you have this challenge. Your communication is not so great because when you write in English and French, there's an error and things like that. Can I just volunteer with you for 3 months? Of course, the answer is yes. You've spotted the problem and you've come with a solution because it comes from a place of study. And of course, the third thing about resources is that in managing resources, and this is where I love to speak to the fact that as Nigerians, we live in a status-based economy. And I have not seen a generation more obsessed with impressing people than the current set of young people. I don't blame you. I don't blame them. It is pressure from social media, pressure from the things they see online, the things they see on TV, bling, bling, and things like that. But what I've learned is that no one respects you for the impression that you make based on what you don't have. So you don't have money, but then you claim you don't have money for training, but you use a phone more expensive than mine. By the way, I don't buy phones. Not because I can't afford to buy them, but because I exchange value for phones. I don't remember the last time I think the last time I bought a phone must have been maybe 2003 or 4. For the last 18 years, it's either BlackBerry is doing their promo and they're like, oh, we'll give you one BlackBerry phone because we know that when you write about it, because they know I write blogs, because they know I tweet. And so they give it to me. And I write a few things and I've earned the phone. I've received, at least one phone from BlackBerry that I used for a very long time. And after a while, they changed the phone. They upgraded me to a Z10. After a while, Nokia said, okay, we see you've been writing from, your tweets say from my BlackBerry Z10. We would like you to change that to a Nokia. It was a red phone. I remember one of their first rugged phones. After a while, I stopped using it. I gave it to somebody because Huawei came to me and said, okay, we've seen your article criticizing us and you've highlighted some things we can do to solve our problem. What am I saying? Understand resources, study hard to understand, to know how to use them, and please manage it well. To be honest, if I decide today that I want to buy the most expensive phone in the world, I can do it without drinking Gary at night. Even if I drink Gary, it's okay, because Gary must not be insulted, especially when it comes to cold water. Now, How do you manage the resources that you have? How do you apportion them? I have a spreadsheet. I'm married, so it's shared with my wife. We have a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet has two sides: income to the right, expenditure to the left. The expenditure is divided into two sections. One is called a sinking fund. The other is called daily, regular expenses. It doesn't have a name, actually, the other one. The sinking fund are things like school fees, things like healthcare, things like home insurance, things that we need to pay bulk money once a year for. And instead of writing to somebody, I'm going to develop school, your child wants to go to school, I'm begging them, I put money aside. My wife puts literally our entire resources. And guess what? All of the money that she earns goes into our savings. The money that I earn is what we share between the two of us. And we're not stupid. It's not like we do not want to have the best. In fact, we have a budget for entertainment. It's in sinking fund. It keeps piling up. There's budget for books because you have to learn. But my point is, who are you trying to impress? And I think this is a challenge, not only for young people. I went to OAU, the school I attended gave me an award many years ago. And of course, when your former university gives you an award, there will be fundraising after that. You know that there is a Nigerian, it's not even a Nigerian thing, it's a general thing. So after that, they said, okay, how much are you guys going to give to the school? In the room, we had people like Funke what's the main one cable company, and Sundukwe, chairman of MTN, myself and others. And when it was time to announce how much, everybody kept announcing. And then I saw some people would twist in their chairs, and I can imagine they were thinking, hey, why do I have to give money now? And then they would announce a huge amount. When it might got to me, I said, I'm not making any donation today, and I passed it on. And after we finished, and Sundukwe walked to me and said, I wish all of us were as bold as you are. Maybe if we're as bold as you are, maybe corruption will even reduce in Nigeria. And it was like a joke. But guess what? The pressure that everybody felt that made them announce an amount of money, I didn't feel it. Because I don't need to, why am I impressing you? Are you my father? Do you pay my school fees? And I think we need to understand it when it comes to resources. So we said the first challenge is a challenge of knowledge. The second challenge is the challenge of resources or barrier or assumed barrier. The third one that I want to talk about is a challenge of, I can use many words for it, but I don't want to use the, not resilience, because that word has been abused. I was just on my way home a few minutes ago. My wife and I went to pick the kids from school, and I saw the fuel queue. And Nigerians are very resilient. Somebody shared a video, was like, oh, last night 2 a.m. we were queuing at the fuel station, and I'm like, that's madness. I'm not blaming the person, but that's a mad scenario. And the person said, oh, we even had VIP section. When you bribe the gate men 2,000 naira, they will let you go inside to sit inside AC. And I was like, oh my God, that is not resilience. That is, like fella said, suffer head. Now, what word do I want to use? Persistence. Let me use the word persistence. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking today. Persistence. A lot of us give up 1 or 2 steps before success. I can tell you my entire story of how everything that people call successful in my life has been something that I tenaciously put my head to. Someone asked me once, how come you've gone to all the big schools in the world? Suffering and smiling. That is what they called it. Suffering and smiling. Suffering and smiling. That's not a place to be. And like I said to my wife, well, I hope that people have their PVCs and vote with their mouth and their entire bodies in February and March. Because the people deserve the government they get. People have been asking me, oh, who do we vote for? Who are you campaigning? I said, this one, I tried it in 2015. I burnt my fingers. This one, I have my 1 vote. My wife has her 1 vote. Incidentally, we're all both voting for the same person. Our kids are below 18, so they're not voting yet. But we will decide to end suffering and smiling as much as we can. So I'll say that everything that people have called success in my life has been something born out of persistence, perseverance, and resilience. Someone was asking me, oh, how come you've been to all the good schools in the world and things like that? Now, let me tell you the story behind that. I didn't pay any money of mine. I didn't pay my money to go to Harvard. I didn't pay my money to go to Stanford. I didn't pay my money to go to Oxford. I didn't pay my money to go to Santa Clara. I didn't pay my money to go to any of those schools. What I did was what I said earlier. I exchanged value. Let me tell you the Harvard story, Harvard and Stanford in 2008. The International Telecoms Union put out a call for an essay in 2001 on ICTs and national development or something like that. And I wrote it. I invested my time so much that when they were even looking for who to select from Nigeria, they knew the guy already. They were just looking for the girl because there was no competition. Because the professor in charge of the selection process, Professor Gio Ajayi of blessed memory, who happened to be my lecturer, but never saw me because, don't ask me why. I wasn't in class a lot for, a lot of church activities and things like that, but no regrets. He came to the class that was 1 year ahead of me and said, oh, I'm looking for anybody who knows ICT and development. And two people, Isaac Young, and I mentioned names so that people can, somebody who is contesting for presidency now will say, go and verify that Isaac Young and Kayode Ayodele, who, by the way, was the immediate past HOD of Elect in Ife, came to my class and said, Prof is looking for you. Not Prof is looking for somebody that knows that. Prof is looking for you. My question to you is, do you know it so well that when they are looking for someone to represent, your name comes to mind? Don't worry, they will abuse you. Why are you too focused? In Ife in those days, people abused me. He's in the next level, we're always talking about computers, IT, national development. And when they're abusing you, they're helping to spread your fame because they'll say, have you met that guy, Gbenga? His name is Gbenga. He's always a computer guy. And they spread your fame until it gets to the lecturer, who then selects you. There are many other things. And that was not the first time I was writing. I had been writing, and no one saw it. I could have given up, but then I wrote 2 more times, and then Prof saw it, and I got that International Telecoms Union Youth Fellowship in 2001. That was my first flight out of Nigeria, November 12th, 2001. Got on a plane for the first time in my life. It was great. Somebody was telling me, she was afraid. She has heard about plane crashes. I said, what's my own? I've entered the plane for the first time in my life. If it wants to correct crash, at least I've fulfilled one thing I wanted. But of course, it didn't crash, and it's not going to crash. That laid the foundation for when the ITU then called for scholarships. I reminded them, I am the guy that you selected. In scholarship, give me the $10,000. Let me go and do my master's. Of course, because I had a track record of resilience. Not only did I write that essay and got selected for that fellowship, between 2001 and 2008, in those 7 years that the ITU made the call, I remained in touch with the Bureau for Telecoms Development, BDT. I would volunteer to produce newsletters for them. Every year, I did so much work that they invited me back to come and talk at some ITU meeting or the other. By 2003, they invited me to Geneva for the World Information Society. By 2006, 2005 to Tunis. And by 2007, when they called for the application, my name was already ringing in their heads. If you've invested so much in your brand, at times, the things you apply for, you won't even be in the room and they will be like, tell everybody else that applied that there's no competition. That's how I got the $10,000. But that's not where the story even ended. I was supposed to go to study with that $10,000 to do a master's program, but I saw that what I needed at the time was not master's. What I needed was to go for executive education, and I looked, how did I land on those schools? I asked, I think it was Professor Tomi or someone else that I asked, and I said, Prof, I came out of Ife with a 2-2. It's a shame because people, talk about 2-1 first class. I'm a first class graduate. I can't say that. Is it possible for me to do something that will cover that shame? And he was joking. He said, well, go to the best schools in the world and nobody will call you a 2-2 from Ife. They will just call you Harvard trained, Stanford trained. As I was talking, I was writing the names. Harvard, Stanford. I was writing the names, Oxford. And I decided I was not going to go to one. I was going to go to all. But how did I pay for it? That scholarship came, $10,000. And I said to them, I need to go to these two schools, Harvard and Stanford. The programs were about roughly 5,000 plus each. I realized two problems. Number one, it was more than the $10,000 they were going to give me. Number two, the rule is that you cannot spend the money on anything else apart from your master's. So I wrote a letter to the Secretary General of the International Telecoms Union, who happened to have been the director of the Bureau for Telecom Development when I was doing all my investments in those days, and said to him, he calls me son. I said, Daddy, I promise you, the ITU will be proud. The same letter I wrote to my dad when I was going to stay back for 1 year in Ife. Said, you will be proud of what I will achieve, and the ITU name will be in my profile. I don't know what happened in the ITU. I don't know if he called them and told them to change the rules or to review the rules. I know that the ITU is a UNS. I don't know what happened. I just that basically said, okay, you can apply the $10,000 towards your two schools. Now, the problem was that the two schools, after you pay the tuition for a social entrepreneurship course at Stanford in June and an ICT policy course at Harvard in April, the money will finish. How do I get money for flight? Somehow, I also appealed to them and said, you know what, let me do some work for you. What do you need as far as youth and ICTs are concerned? Let me do some work for you. And I exchanged that for tickets. And then I got those 2 tickets. That's how that started. I mean, also another story. And this, by the way, is all built on resilience. And I say to people that please don't give up, because now there's a difference between doing suffering and smiling and knowing when to move on to the next thing, and staying resolute that I must get to the end of this. If the reason you want to, I want to use the word japa, I'm not saying japa if I live in Nigeria, japa from an idea, japa from a mentality. If the reason you want to run away is because you are lazy, then of course you will not get it. But if the reason is that you have tried 1,001 times and it's not succeeding, and you are tweaking what you need to do so that you can do it a bit better, then go for it and change it. At the end of the day, it's insanity for you to do something over and over 1 million times and you expect different results. So, resilience. And resilience is simply about doing it and doing it again and doing it again. And when you just feel like you are going to give up. I learned how to swim many years ago. And for the first time in my life, I realized that humans can actually stay underwater for a long time. Now I swim the entire breadth of the pool without bringing my head out of water. Almost, so it's 25 meters length and about 12.5 meters across. So I can swim 15 meters, stay under the water for almost a minute without even feeling anything. Tell that to someone who hasn't swum before. They'll be like, you want to kill me. But the truth is, it is about resilience. It's about practice. It's about doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And it is important that we note that, simply because if you tackle the first challenge of knowledge, you tackle the second challenge or assumption of resources, you also need to tackle the challenge of giving up just before you succeed. The fourth challenge is a challenge of competition. And I will close on that so that we can have time to ask questions. The challenge of competition. Many times we compare ourselves with other people, and it's only human. I went to secondary school in ABC Duani. I went to St. Peter's. I went to Private School, St. Peter's Primary School. And when I'm on a WhatsApp group with many of my friends, St. Peter's, and people say, oh, they are doing well, they are doing great, and things like that. At times I ask myself, oh, wow, am I measuring up? It's only human. But do I then start thinking, Sapa, hey, that guy has gone, and I am here. If I do that, I'll be a fool. Now, why? Because no two people will run the same race. I learned this in a practical way when my parents, when I was much younger in FGC Doani, I would come home. I'm not going to say I was the best student in my secondary school. That you can go and ask. They will tell you if I was. But I will come back home come first in maths. And my parents will look at it, and then my dad will say, he's a teacher, so you can understand. He will say, 99%. You came first. That's, so, and you're thinking to yourself, me, genius. And my dad will say, adjust his glasses. 99 over 100. What did you do with the 1 mark? And I never understood what he was saying until the day he explained the difference between coming first and scoring the highest mark obtainable. When you come first, you can score 60 and come first. If everybody in your class is a dullard and they score 40 and below, at least in further mathematics or additional mathematics, which was, its real name on, in school at the time, people didn't pass that subject a lot. So if you scored 75, you were first until our set got in. Myself, Tundade Kola, Lekongwale, Bayo Olotu, Tokumbo Temenu. And then the score 70 was no longer first. Because if you don't score 85, Tunde has beat you. If you don't score 90, Tokumbo has beat you. If you don't score 95, Bayo has beat you. So it was very easy because competition was there. But guess what? That was one form of low-level competition, which is comparing yourself with others. The true form of competition is comparing yourself with your best self. In building technology, okay, I say point here. Okay, 18 more minutes, and then we have question time separate from the lecture. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can give some more examples. Now, the interesting thing about comparing yourself with other people is that if you're not careful, not even if you're not careful, is that you're doing the wrong thing. Let me give you a practical example when it comes to technopreneurship. So there are tech platforms, there are people who provide tech services, there are people who build those platforms. If Facebook compares itself with Apple using the same metrics, it will die in less than 2 years. The metrics are different. And this is where I say to people that what are the metrics that you are judging your own knowledge, your attracting resources, your resilience, and even your ability to compete? Are you competing with others or you're competing with the best version of yourself? And when I say best version of yourself, let me give another example. So I was talking about the mathematics where my dad would say, oh, okay, where is the 1 mark? I realized when we wrote our mock exam, Mr. Jokotola is the name of our math teacher. When I was writing some of the tests, Mr. Jokotola will come to my side at times and write 20 over 20, even before I finished. I mean, we were friends like that because he knew if you mark the script, I'll score 20 anyway. But at the end of the year, it will be 99 over 100. And I've been wondering why, if it's 2020 all through, why is he always 39 over 40 in exams? Then we did mock exam and it gave me 101%. And of course, everybody knew at the time that mock exam in SS2 is even more difficult than SS3, WAEC or JAM, maths and things like that. And so when I got 101, I was wondering what happened. And then he came to me and said, by the way, that 1 mark that I used to remove every term so that you'll be serious, or every year so that you'll be serious, I've given you back now. That's why you have 101. That is competing with the best version of myself. Many times, the reality is that everybody in the class will be comparing their own notes, their own result sheet. 16 over 20, a miloga. 17 over 20, it beat me. And I was quiet in one corner because I wasn't competing with the 16s and 17s. They are not my level. My level was 100%. And I think this is really important because you can ask yourself, do I want to remain at this level? Because there are many versions of you that are possible. There's a version of you that is a local champion. There's a version of you that is a global citizen that expresses himself or herself in a way that there are no boundaries. People say, oh, it's difficult. If you have a Nigerian passport, you can't go anywhere. Don't forget, people always try to use their words to justify their failure. And they also try to do one clear thing to make sure that whatever they have not been able to do, they tell you that you also cannot do. Of course, it is not true. It is not that you can't do it. It is simply that because they didn't succeed, they are now going to give you the impression that no one can succeed at it. When I got into Ife, I remember, White House. So in year one, you do what they call White House courses, maths, chemistry, physics. And people used to say things like, everybody failed, everybody failed. But I realized that when I go back to my room and people say, so we saw our maths result, and people were like, everybody failed. Nobody scored, or nobody had an A. And then I'll check my result and I'll be like, this is 89 or 91. I'll be like, and then I got confused and I will keep quiet. Same thing for chemistry. I'll be like, why is everybody saying everybody failed? Then I realized what was happening. People were saying that to justify their own failure, basically to say, everybody failed. A is for God, B is for the lecturer. People said it, but guess what? People were getting A's. So maybe they are gods and children of the Most High, but guess what? When we justify the things we're unable to do with statements like, well, nobody has been able to do it, what we do is we limit ourselves. And when I said that there can be either a local or global version of yourself, when I was in my 4th year in university, I realized that the best way for me to, please don't tell anybody this because it's a secret. I wanted to become electronic club chairman for one major reason. Yes, I wanted to serve. I wanted to be the one that will help coordinate meetings and things like that. But the real reason was because the electronic club chairman is the one in charge of computers in the department. So I wanted to be able to own one internet connected computer that I'll be using all the time. And I'll be allowing others to use, when they have a timetable to use it. So I went to contest against a man called Musa Ibinu, who, by the way, is now a professor. And somebody will say, how come? Yes, he's a real professor. That's another story in resilience. Ibinu was our classmate, but he wasn't our classmate. I mean, and this is not only about age. Yes, he was much older than us, but he wasn't our classmate. He had gone to a poly to study electronic and electrical engineering. So when he came to Ife, he was more like a teacher, not a student. So when we're doing practicals, people will go to him and tell them, Ibinu, help me solve this problem. And then we'll tell them, take that solenoid, just adjust it to the right, take 30 degrees, 30 Fahrenheit, 30 hertz. And people will just be looking like this, like, and things like that. And that was the person I chose to go against. He's the vice chancellor of, I think, Summit University in Ofanau. I went against him to become an electronic club chairman. And to make fun of me, they read my profile. They said, Gbenga Sesan went to nursery school, primary school, Akure. Everybody clapped for me. At times, be careful when people clap for you because you don't know why they're clapping. Primary school, went to St. Peter's demonstration. They highlighted the demonstration. I didn't know why. Demonstration, primary school, Akure, everybody clapped. Said secondary school, he went to Federal Government College. Instead of a dual, they all shouted, Akure. I think I was beginning to get the message. Then they now said he's currently a 4th-year student of Obama University, and they all shouted Akure. And then I got the point. The point was simple. You're an Akure boy. Nothing is wrong with being an Akure boy. I'm Omoloyemebu. I mean, you can't change that. It's my story. It's my history. But what they saw was that will be the limit. And then right there and then, I decided I was going to change the narrative. So I said to them, my name is Gbenga Sesan, GS, abbreviated. And that today, I'm going to change that to global synergism. Don't ask me what global synergism means. I don't know. Synergy is supposed to mean working together and things like that. I just came up with that and I used it to address them. And I said, in the next few years, I'll be doing this in technology globally and things like that. And I want to bring that knowledge down to our campus. I will bring global leaders. And I did what I promised. I won, of course. If you listen to promises that I made, there's no way you won't vote for me. Even people knew, this Ibinu guy is smart. He's our teacher. He teaches us everything. His future is bright. But they were like, this guy's mouth is sweet. He will give us internet-connected computers. He will bring, global leaders to campus. And the moment I was elected, I started organizing the first one. Invited people like Chris Owaje, who at the time was the IT Association of Nigeria president in Nigeria. I we then wrote an email to someone called Philip Emeguali, who at the time was the most popular Nigerian in the world, because Clinton had come to Nigeria like a year or so before in 1999, and it was talking about an African American named Philip Emeagwali, told the story, was called the father of the internet. I mean, there was a sort of controversy around his PhD, which happened later and things like that. But at that time, it was the big deal. I wrote an email to him, philip@emeagwali.com, and he replied. And so my promise to the class was fulfilled. We got computers, we got more computers connected to the internet. We had a field trip to Lagos to go to computer companies. We did everything. But guess what? The transition for me from being an Akure boy that everybody was laughing at, and many of them were laughing because, truly speaking, at that point, I'd not even been to Lagos. Yes, I had gone for one scholarship test. I think Ajib test, scholarship test at one point. I'd gone there for my industrial attachment. But these were people who felt, comparing themselves with me, they were Lagos big boys and things like that. But guess what? I competed against the best version of myself. What is the best version of Gbenga Sesan? And I asked, and I began to work on that. The interesting thing about competing with the best version of yourself is that it also gives you the opportunity to know that, yes, you are interested in technopreneurship. Yes, there are barriers, but there are certain things that will clearly set you apart. And I'll share 3 of those things. Number 1, and I've mentioned some of them again, but I mentioned some of them before, but I want to bring 3 clear things that I need you to remember as I end this. Number 1 is that there is nothing, no problem you want to solve today that someone has not thought about. There is no knowledge that you need today that someone has not documented in one form or the other, or at least started writing about. If you're doing a PhD like my wife, it means you're creating new knowledge. But even when you're creating new knowledge, you are building. That's why there are many references in thesis, either your master's or PhD thesis, because somebody said something in bracket 2002. Even though you are, you are creating a new thesis, you're building on something that exists. There is nothing, no problem you want to solve that does not build on something that already exists. And because of that, it means that the word impossible, in many cases, is actually an excuse. Someone says, I want to build a platform that makes anybody from Alagbaka or Alaquatas or Ijapu or Arakale or Idori or even anywhere in the world. I want them to, right from inside their house, to learn new tools that will make them become global players. Someone has done something similar before. And that leads me to my first point. The first point is about innovation. And this, by the way, is the bedrock of technopreneurship. If you don't do it differently, then guess what? Why should we patronize you? When I was growing up in Akure, Arakale, and I know it's changed a lot now, even though it still remains a bit the same. I mean, the road is wider, the shops are a bit finer and things like that, but it's almost still the same principle. Everybody sells what the next person is selling. You want to buy jeans, you want to buy underwear, the same set of things being sold by everybody. Somebody starts selling tire in Oshinle, everybody is selling tires. But guess why somebody has many more customers than others? When you come, others pull you, push you, do everything, but this person calls you and says, come to sit down. And there is fan, not just fan with water that makes you feel like AC in its place. Now that is innovation. What will you do differently that would make people patronize what you do over what others are doing? The organization that I lead, that I have the opportunity to lead, we love to do things differently. When someone says do 1, we do 1.5. When someone says do it with 10 naira, we do it with 7 naira. And I've changed. Why? We do that because we know that if we save cost, it's an advantage. If we promise and deliver more than we promised, it's an advantage. And that in itself is how you set yourself apart. talk about MVPs, minimum viable product. I think that one of the challenges we have as a nation is that everybody wants to do the least possible. They invite you to come and speak somewhere. And I'll give you a very practical example here. I speak on many platforms. At times, there are 10,000 people in the audience. At times, there are less than 10 people in the audience. But you will never find me speak with less energy because there are 3 people in the meeting. Do you know why? Because you can never tell. Some of us do some things and say, people will not see this one, and you do something shabby. But guess what? It is that small one you did that somebody will see, somebody who is able to make a major decision. My very first time ever speaking, on the global tech platform was because of some small, in quotes, thing that I did somewhere, and someone was like, wow, this needs to be on a great platform. Now, millions of people are watching that. We love to do the basic minimum, and that doesn't help. If everybody is doing 7, you should at least be a 10. I'm not one of those people that say, things like, oh, well, what you need to get a good appraisal in the office is 80 marks, and then you are excellent. I don't do 80. Highest mark obtainable. I may not hit 100, but if I'm not in my 90s, by the way, I'm the founder and executive of my organization, but I still subject myself to the chairman's appraisal every year. There's nothing the chairman can do if I don't do it. In fact, I can't be fired. I even made a joke with the board. I had a board meeting yesterday, and I was making a joke about something, and they were like, oh, that I set a particular bar for fundraising very high, that what maybe I should review it. I said, no. I said, if I don't meet it, you will fire me and start looking for another ED. But guess what? You won't find another person that can do better than me. It sounds like pride. It's not pride. It's confidence built on investment, continuous development, and making sure that I manage my time and everything well. So, first thing, do more than others. Innovate. If someone says, okay, fine, this is best loved Winnie Pooh stories, do you know how many versions of this book exist in the world? I'm sure dozens. Winnie the Pooh. There are too many books on Winnie the Pooh, but this person has best loved Winnie the Pooh stories. In fact, it's an aggregation of various stories of Winnie the Pooh, and everybody is buying it. Innovate. Number 2, I've talked about resilience, but I forgot, not that I forgot, I did not want to speak about resilience and rest at the same time. Listen, today may not be a great day for me to explain why it's important for you to take breaks, but please don't wait until you break down before you decide to pace yourself. And by that, I mean schedule things. Put them on your calendar, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, then 12 to 1, break. And the last point that I want to make is surround yourself with the best people possible. Surround yourself with the best people possible. Forgive the sound you hear on the door. That's my daughter trying to call daddy's attention. She's finished her homework. So I want to close here. It's right on the dot of time, and I thank you for your attention. I believe that we will transition into questions now. All right, I see that there's some questions here already. Yeah, breaking the box. Why be in a box anyway? To be honest, and I think I spoke to this a bit earlier. One of the challenges of even being in a box, of allowing people to put you in a box and put you in a category, is that when you allow yourself to be put in a box, there are opportunities that they will label, okay, opportunities, but not for people like you, because you're already inside a box. The other challenge is that if you're inside a box, you can't see beyond the sides. If God help you that the box is not covered. If the box is covered, then you can't see anything else. If the box is not covered, you can see the top, but you can't see the sides. If the opportunities coming to your right and to your left, you can't even see them. I'm a Christian, so allow me to quote the scriptures a bit. It talks about, God lifting a standard. If, people to your right and to your left and opportunities and things, but you can't even see them because you're in a box. So you can't see to your right, you can't see to your left. And if someone says, what if the box is very small? Then click it if it's too small. And, so basically, why put yourself in a box when you can attract other opportunities? Let me see if there's no other question here. That's the only question. So I guess this is the point where I stop, and I would like to know if there are people in the room who have questions. And even if you don't, by the way, I said, if you have something popping in your head and you don't feel like asking, please ask, because there is somebody else apart from you that will benefit from that. I'm happy to clarify something I have said. I'm happy to maybe even elaborate, or if you have any particular question. So any other question? I'm sure you can unmute yourself to ask.
Hello there.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So it was really insightful. And of course, I learned so much from this. And yeah, please, if you have any questions, we can please raise our hands and put on our video and unmute our mics too.
Thanks a lot. I see a question here: how to deal with the problem of procrastination. Okay. Now, this is the problem that everybody has. What's procrastination? Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. That is the spirit behind New Year resolutions, by the way. I'll start on January 1 next year. I do not say don't start a New Year resolution, but I'm saying if you can't start the moment when it comes to you and you have to wait till January 1, then you're not serious about it, because the calendar is a human creation, by the way. It's, the Gregorian calendar was created, if you thought, do you undo procrastination? A few things I can offer. One way that I deal with that is to schedule the things I need to do, is to plan better. So how do I do that? I plan to do the simpler things that I can accomplish first. Some people have a different method. In fact, there are schools that will teach you and say things like, oh, just do the hard one first, so that the adrenaline of having done a very hard thing can be used to do the smaller things. I have a different opinion. I believe that if you want to eat your moi very well and enjoy it, don't eat the egg now. The egg is in the big part. Start from that almost tasteless, flat place. Eat it, and then towards the end, I'm team eat your best portion of meat after your meal, and things like that. So I say to people, start with something that you can do. So scientists will tell you that oxytocin, which is sort of the hormone that that comes into our body when we have the feeling of pleasure of doing something great. We get it when we accomplish small tasks. So for example, I start my day with email. When I get into the office and I set things up, I go into my inbox, because email it's not the easiest thing in the world, because some of them will mean you have to research and write and things like that. But I deal with my inbox such that I have only a few emails left, and the excitement of having done that leads me to do the next thing. And it may lead to me going into a meeting where I also score another high and then go on. When you're able to build things based on schedule, it helps you to enjoy the next and the next and the next, and so you won't have to be pushing other things. Now, when we schedule or plan to do something that will require 12 hours in 1 hour, you will procrastinate. You will postpone it because you haven't allocated enough time. The other way I deal with myself is I ask myself, when I have a deadline of Friday, 7 p.m., have you noticed that at 6 p.m., you will do everything to make sure you turn it in? So why wait until 6 p.m.? So I break a big task. Now, this is my final answer on that. How do you avoid having to postpone everything? Break them into small tasks. I'm writing a book at the moment. I'm writing 3 pages at a time. There are days I don't even write anything. And in a few months, you will have a book to buy. Okay? There are some other questions here. How important is networking to the success of, okay, let's jump in. How important is networking to the success of what you're doing? So if one is a bit reserved by nature, how can one break the barrier of timidity? First thing, read the book Quiet by Sesan. Let me write it here. Quiet by Sesan. What you will learn is that quiet people, reserved people, are the strongest people. But many times they don't channel that energy because the world assumes that a Barack Obama, a Martin Luther King Jr., an Awolowo, or somebody like Zeke, the great Zeke of Africa, or Sardauna, who speaks fluently, because they speak very well, they are the great leaders. So they don't look at people who are very soft-spoken. But guess what? As a quiet and reserved person, you can still network. And I'll tell you why, how I know that. I know that because I used to be sanguine and choleric 100-100, not 50-50. I was everywhere. And then I grew up a bit more and then I became very reserved. But 20% of my work requires that I meet people all the time. Because I know it's a requirement, then I create a space in my mind to enjoy it. What you need to do as an introvert is to find the meeting point between networking and meeting your needs. If you know that networking with people will get you the $1 million you need, you will network now. Abba, you will network. I don't know if you've seen the skit where somebody scored, I think 40 in JAMB and wants to study medicine. And the lecturer that wanted to help him, which is one thing, of course, I don't believe in, said he would do theater arts, which was, I think, was weird because with 40, you can't even enter theater arts. And the mother said, couldn't you like theater arts? The person said, oh, I like theater arts. Because whatever you desperately need, you will make time for. So I recommend that book. If you're an introvert and you think that you have a challenge with channeling your resources or your energy, I recommend that book. By the way, I recommend it for those who are around introverts too. My wife is an introvert. That's why I read that book, because I used to wonder before, but now I understand that there's a force building up on the inside of her that makes her go further than I will. We extroverts, once we start like this, we're finished. You start a project and you are bored. An introvert, they lay the foundation. They're the kind of people that they'll say, as in the person has spent 20 years to lay the foundation of how to get mad. Once they get mad like this, you will know that this one is a serious one. Hopefully my question is not totally left. It won't be left, don't worry, in Place College. But what is your take on the jackpot culture, especially with the young people coming up, as the importance to growth cannot be emphasized? My theory of jackpot is anybody that wants to jackpot, let them jackpot. It's okay. They would, as they continue to go, they will learn that a lizard in Nigeria cannot be an alligator in Canada. It's not possible. Whatever you don't have, you don't have. I know people will say, oh, there's no power in Nigeria, there's no security. Yes, but guess why the people that are succeeding on the other side, where you think the grass is greener, why do you think it's the same people who already succeeded in Nigeria? Why do you think that the ones that are succeeding there? It's very simple. It's a Matthew effect. To who has some, more will be given. It is the person. And by the way, the whole essence of immigration, of countries asking you to come to their place, is because you have a talent that they need to fill a gap in their country. That was the whole idea of the green card. That's the whole idea of the Canadian thing. I just learned of someone who left for Canada to go and do something that I thought was, oh my God, what is this? But guess what? Canadians don't want to do it. So the guy is doing it and is now on his path to becoming. So my theory is, if you want to go, please don't go and don't go and do stuff ahead. Make sure you're going on a basis of immigration is a human need. If you want to jackpot, it's okay. But if you are doing it to try to escape, whatever you're escaping, you will still meet it. Because they give you work in Nigeria, you're not doing it well. You said you are not promoted. You don't want to go to Canada. You walk, your brain will freeze. The other side of jackpot is that the only reason why anybody is desperate to run away is because they are not kings in their domain. Listen, I'm Nigerian, I have only one passport. A few weeks ago, they were having this conversation on Twitter that, this list of 100 cities across the world, nobody that has only a Nigerian passport could have been to more than 20 or 30. I looked through the list, I'd been to more than 55 on a Nigerian passport. I'm king of Africa. So why would I want to go and behave like a slave in another country? For someone else, he's king here, but he doesn't mind going to be a prince, and that's fine. You know, it's a human need. But my point is there are two sides. Please don't let anybody put you under pressure that, oh, don't go, patriotism. Listen, if you want to pursue your dreams, my in-law went to the UK for, which is the youngest of us, you know, went to the UK for his master's, and he's back there now working. I'm like, fine, this is when you're young, no woman in your life, no child, pursue your dreams, travel the world, see the world, do everything you want to do. So don't let anybody put you under pressure. Don't go be patriotic. It is not about patriotism. It's about if there's value you can add. India, Rwanda, Singapore, many countries have actually deliberately sent their citizens out to go and study and come back and solve problems. So it's possible. And don't let anybody put you under pressure to say you must go. Why must you go? For every example, someone made a joke on Twitter a few days ago. He said, that everybody is jackpine, but you notice that all of the richest people in Africa actually live in their own countries. Listen, instead of jackpine, let me introduce a new concept to you. It's a concept of access to the world from your place of strength. That's what I practice. That's why I see my wife practice. That's why I see many of my colleagues and friends practice. Own your space wherever you are, and then have access to the world. The world calls you. At the beginning, this is January. I know how many countries I'm going to go to minimum this year that I will not pay for because of the knowledge I have and because I am king in my own domain. And when they need me, I will go, you know, of course, once in a while, do some shopping and come back. But I'm not going to leave all of the knowledge and resources I've built and then relocate to go and, do something like, I don't know. So please, two sides. Let nobody put you under pressure in the name of patriotism not to pursue your academic or even immigration dreams. And at the same time, let nobody tell you that, oh, because you have not left Nigeria. People told my wife when we were living, you know, I've lived in Nigeria all my life. My wife was in the UK for a PhD, and I went there every month as promised. I would spend 2 weeks with her, go for my meetings, come back to Nigeria and things like that. And people were like, you want to go back to Nigeria? There will be problem or there will be wahala. Let me tell you a secret. Those people today, they can't stand beside her. And she's here in Nigeria. Are there problems? That's where I want to be, by the way, where I can solve problems. Half of my career, half of the things you read in my profile are built on the fact that I've solved complex problems in Nigeria. Nigeria didn't have a broadband plan. I helped with a team to help Nigeria write a broadband plan. And now the rest of the world is asking me. The US General asking me recently to come and help, advise on leadership on Internet Governance Forum. Where did that come from? That came from the fact that I am solving problems at home in Africa, at home in Nigeria. I run a Pan-African organization, I have team members in 7 countries. I'm solving problems in those countries, and I'm doing it from my place of strength. That is my theory. Instead of focusing on Japa or don't Japa, focus on have access to the world from your place of strength. My place of strength in Nigeria, I have only one passport. We're joking about it, my wife and I, and said, instead of spending $100,000 on a passport, I will invest it on, I know a few things I can invest that on. It doesn't stop you. Don't forget, don't compare yourself to me. You made a brief reference to the present green Japa phenomenon. Would you please give advice on positive or negative? Yes, I mean, I've talked a bit about that. The negative problem with Japa is that almost every young person is now desperate to live. It is now seen as a thing of joy. Welcome to a new dispensation. You post a picture of Sholabo Wale sipping in King of Boys, and then put your own picture and say new dispensation and things. It's become a fact. People do that, and we're losing talent, obviously. I know for a fact, I know many of my friends who left are now, desperate, not just to come back, but also to, own something that they can relate to. I mean, there are many issues. There are friends of mine who don't like the code, friends of mine who don't like the taxes, don't like the fact that they don't have savings. After you pay all the bills, nothing left. I got upset when I got to my wife to see my wife at some point in the house that we got in Nottingham, where, of course, PDDF, the government of Nigeria, sponsored our PhD, got the house for her. I will get in there and then they will say we should pay, what's it called again, TV license. I'm like, what nonsense? TV license? For what? Even if you don't have a TV, you must pay TV license as long as you watch BBC on your laptop. And I'm like, I don't understand this. So there are many positive and negative sides of it, but at the end of the day, I say be your best, the best version of yourself. If your dream is to be a global champion, my advice is, if you want to jackpot, please feel free. If you don't want to, please feel free, but you must do the world. You must access the world from your place of strength. Your place of strength could be if you relocate to the UK, if you like, but in many cases, for many of us, we are building a place of strength already. We have strong networks in Nigeria and all that. I've been asked, because there are students of Place College and Preston International. I know Preston because some of my nieces and nephews went to Preston, by the way. And I'm glad that we have secondary school students on this call. I told you the story earlier of how my career is built today on the fact that I was denied access to a computer in my secondary school. But I know that Place and Preston don't deny access to students. But guess what? As a young person, ask yourself, where do I want to be in the next 20 years? And then run in that direction. What do I mean? I've mentioned a few things earlier. I said, number one, you must, as a matter of necessity, stop comparing yourself to every other person. In fact, it is possible you are not the one who comes first in that subject now. It doesn't mean you can't come first. If in GS1, they are second or third, it doesn't mean you can't be the first by GS2 or GS3. A friend of mine called Nosa was literally accepted in EduC Duani as the best student in our set. He had gone to GS1 somewhere else and then joined us in Duani. But by the time we were finishing, the story changed. And I'm not ridiculing Nosa, but Nosa will come to me to explain mathematics to him. That was focus. That was, why was I almost said the best, but don't worry. Please go and ask FGS Duani who was the best. Why was I ahead of the pack? Let me put it that way. There were some textbooks that my parents would want to buy for me, and they will say, okay, they will get it next term. Chemistry, Ababio was what we used at the time. I read Ababio back to back because I borrowed from different people before I got my own copy. I will borrow from Tunde and read it in full. Borrow from Tokumbo, read it in full. Borrow from Lekon. So by the time I got mine, it was in my head. I still remember that chapter 33 in Ababio is chemistry of earth and space. Chapter 14 is acid, bases, and salts. And I still remember that. I think 21 is water, or maybe acid or something like that. I still remember all those. I still remember if it's on the right or left and the color yellow, red. Why? Because I read it so much. And that is the desperation I was talking about earlier. You must be desperate to become the best. And the best does not mean coming first. The best means the best, the best version of yourself. So please don't compare yourself with your classmates and put yourself under pressure. And the second thing is that please, you're not too young to start thinking of what you want to do. In fact, start thinking of your affinity. The reason why parents allocate courses to us is because we haven't discussed our interests with them. If you're in SS2 and you're already talking to your parents about engineering, they will know you have an interest in that. If you're in SS2 and you're talking to your parents about law or about music or about anything, they know you have an interest in that. Yes, there are parents who will still say, no, medicine, I don't have a doctor in my family. But guess what? That uncle, that aunt of yours will be able to say to them, uncle, don't waste your time. Oh. This boy is a musician. Let him just go and study music. And they will mention names that Two-Face, Burna Boy, these people. This is what they are studying, and they will help convince your parents. So please, you are not too young to start deciding what you want to study. I hope those 2 points are useful, particularly for the Place and Preston International students who are on this call. Another question is balancing rest and hard work. This is simple. You have 8 hours in a day where you can sleep and you have a break during work. So I think that please don't play with that. Someone will say, there are times I want to do what they call gboru, like overnight. Oh yeah, you can do that once in a while. As you grow older, I'm 45, I can't do that anymore. Yes, I can stay up for some things, but you're not going to catch me reading overnight. because I've done it in my days and I've paid my dues. But when I was in Ife, when I was in secondary school, I will read all night long. I didn't even need to put my leg in water. It was interest. I had to return a Babio the next day, so I have to finish reading it. Nelcon physics, I have to finish it in 3 weeks. So I have to read it. So remember that if you're much younger, you can push your body a bit more. But even in pushing your body, you need to realize that when there's a reason why, for example, schools create siesta time and lights out. It's to help you regulate. Once you get into the university, there's no siesta, there's no prep. Please do not be, if you're going to sacrifice the time you should be spending to rest, don't sacrifice it gisting. You know what they call fellowship after fellowship. We all complain, fellowship is too long, it's too long. It's taking 3 hours instead of 2.5 hours. And then when you finish, all of you will be at the back gisting and then complaining you have no time. I say to any young person, if you tell me you have no time, then I need to have a minute with you to remind you that you're a liar. You are not busy. In fact, I say that to professionals, people who work in my office, who work in, who have been working for 20 years. I say to them, you're not busy. If you are busy, what should I say? If I'm busy, what should my chairman, Professor Tomi, say? If Utomi says he's busy, what should the president of a serious country, not all those presidents are always flying out to go and take care of their health instead of focusing on it, they want to rule every time. No, I'm saying people, what should they say? At times we don't plan our time well. That's where the challenge is. So there, of course, must be a balance when you should be in rest. If you're going to sacrifice an hour or two of rest, then use it for something meaningful. And of course, your body will call on you to replace it later. My values for Nigeria as an entrepreneurial country is that we are in a good place as naturally arrogant people. Nigerians are naturally arrogant. People are not even sure of what they are saying and they are arguing. Have you seen people argue on national TV when they do all this, what do they call it again? Street candid camera or something like that. They'll bring a mic to you and say, what is osmosis? And people will say, osmosis is that neighbor that does not give you the osmo that will say, hello, sis. And you look at them like, what is that? And the guy says it with confidence. We're naturally confident people. And one of the most beautiful things about confidence is that we will need it to sell. As an entrepreneurial nation, I believe that we have three opportunities, three advantages. Number one, we're a young country, median age of 18. Number two, we're naturally confident. Anybody, I mean, I lead a Pan-African organization, I hear it all the time. Man, Nigerians, you guys are assertive. You are confident, you're almost arrogant. And number three is that there are too many problems around us to solve. Too many problems. We're just joking today, my wife and I, that one of the biggest opportunities in Nigeria is the fact that there are too many problems. So you want to solve a problem. Somebody, I don't know if anybody remembers the name of Otumba Gaddafi. He was an Ashoka fellow. And before he passed on, everybody knew him. He used to talk about shit business is serious business. He was the one who solved the problem of how people could use the toilet if they are at a public event by providing mobile toilets, DMT mobile toilets. That's the founder. So if you can find money from shit business, you can find money from anything else. Okay, the last question. Do you subscribe to the idea that Nigeria needed to go down to probably its worst level before coming up again, like Rwanda? What does Nigeria need to emerge? And what kind of a leader should we be looking for? I don't believe that we should suffer before we enjoy. But I know that at times, there are some very stubborn people who, until they suffer, they will never know. Until they hit rock bottom, they will never bounce back up. And unfortunately, I think Nigeria is like that in many ways. Until we hit rock bottom, we don't complain. I mean, the streets of Lagos are full of queues for fuel, and people are complaining to themselves. In a decent environment, there will be questions now and say, come, why should we be queuing for fuel at this time? Let me see if there's grid power now. Okay, there is. At times, I don't even know when there is or when there is not. We've invested in an inverter, in solar, and we don't use generators anymore. We build around it. But that's why I do what I do. At times, they say I'm an activist. Why would I not be an activist? I have to complain. And I think that every Nigerians need to become activists so that we don't get to rock bottom. Because one of the problems with getting to rock bottom before you bounce up is that many people don't bounce. millions will never survive. Don't forget, 67 to 7, roughly over 60, roughly 70% of Nigerians are below the poverty line. So if they go lower than that, it won't be funny. And I will close with a story. In 2012, we had this nationwide protest called Occupy Nigeria. And a friend of mine was driving from Lekki. She was one of us who were organizing and, various elements of the protest and things like that. And she was driving and saw these area boys, and she slowed down because they had put a barricade on the road. And she quickly came out of the car to tell them, hey boys, well done. We're the ones organizing the protest and we want a better Nigeria. As she was saying, they just gave her a slap. And she was like, I'm one of the organizers. Why are you slapping me? Go, my friend. You're part of the problem. You know why? Because they saw her driving. That is why I'm hoping Nigeria does not get a rock bottom. If Nigeria gets rock bottom, all of you on this call are in trouble, because many of you are the elite and they know where you live. You know how they say? When poor get really angry, they eat the rich, or those that they think are rich. I hope we don't get a rock bottom. I believe that we've suffered enough as a nation. If you're old enough to vote, I think you can say something with your PVC in February and in March, February 25 and March 11. The kind of leaders that we need are not politicians, because politicians think in terms of every 4 years of election and re-election. The kind of leader we need are true leaders who think long-term. If anybody is avoiding debates, I have problems with that. If anybody is willing to sit with you and answer questions, even if they have really terrible answers now, then I suspect they may have something to offer. It's so bad at the top that, as I've said that now, I've cancelled out majority of the leading politicians running for office. Unfortunately, that's where we are at in Nigeria. But my closing statement on leadership is that the kind of leader we need is you being the best version of yourself. If you're not the best version of yourself, then you have no right. You have no right to ask that somebody should be a better leader. Okay, I see a question here. Sorry, before you close. Okay, the view of Nigerians that are over reticent, that don't reveal their thoughts and feelings, that are afraid of village people. I suspect that's one of the reasons. Somebody is working on their immigration plans and they don't want to tell anybody. I remember many years ago, people would tell me things like, stop writing all your plans. You say you are going to Geneva next week. What if somebody goes to cancel the plan, seeking and things like that? And I'm like, you know what? Unfortunately, many times, the challenge with keeping your thoughts to yourself is that nobody knows your plan and opportunities may not come your way. Because of writing things publicly, because of speaking up, not just word of mouth, but backing it with action, I have been able to attract, for one project, $600,000 from the MacArthur Foundation because I spoke up. Many of us were complaining, but I said, you know what, I'm going to go to Twitter and talk about this. It's like, us had to make presentations. Of course, I spoke up. And then I got an email, $600,000 for 2 years for you to run the project. My head scattered. This was 2014. I'd never seen that kind of money before, but that's because I chose to speak up. They say something in Yoruba, speak up. That's what I love. My best thing about NSAS is sorosoke. I don't add the way at the back because I think it's an insult. But sorosoke, speak up. Let people know what you're thinking. Don't die with your ideas. Speak up. Probably, thank you for having me. Thank you. I know that we challenge with schedule. I apologize, and I'm sure you definitely know my restriction. I have a Nigerian passport, so I still have to apply for visas, unfortunately. But you know, it's one of those things. But I'm glad that we were able to get a chance. This is recorded, so I hope anybody gets to watch this, and if they have any questions, I will leave my email address. And you know, I'm not afraid to leave my email address. Someone will say, if you give everybody your email address, they will disturb you. First of all, if anybody writes and asks for money, I delete. I don't even read it, I just delete. Because I'm more valuable to you than money. If you ask me for money, then that's an insult. Because if I give you money, you will finish it. But what I have to give you, let me borrow from one of my, let me give water of life. I don't have the water of life, but I have the failures of life that I've experienced that I can teach you so that you don't make the same mistakes I've made. I have some successes of life that I've seen that I can explain to you so that you don't have to go through the stress that I went through to achieve those successes. So please write me, send me an email, ask me questions. If you have things that you think can, use Google, use ChatGPT, find out what I do, the things I do, what I know, what I don't know. Ask me questions about what I know, and I will answer. And if I don't know, I will not be shy to, refer you to somebody else who has an answer to that question. So, but Wale, thanks a lot. I look forward to reading from, especially the secondary school students. Ask me questions.
Yes.
I haven't forgotten. By the way, if any of the secondary school students here, send me an email, I will send you a copy of my book. I wrote that book when I turned 30. Well, not 30. I started writing when I turned 29, but I finished. I presented a book in 2009 when I turned 32, and it chronicles everything that I learned growing up as a young child in Akure, things I learned from my parents, things I learned from my friends, things I learned from Youth for Christ, things I learned from St. Luke's Anglican Church Youth Fellowship. I put everything in that book so that I won't forget. That's why I'm writing another one now, a Paradigm Initiative, 15 years of building, a brand that went from $4,000 to becoming an almost $3 million organization, so that I don't forget and start telling you it is simple. Many times it's not simple. It's because we've forgotten. Thank you once again, Bro Wale. I really appreciate it.
Well, Gbenga, we are so grateful. Sincerely, we can't thank you enough. And I'm so happy that you've particularly been able to address the young people. As a matter of fact, I'm happy you also did mention that if anyone of them writes you and sends you an email, I was just even going to ask, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind me asking it in this public medium, that would like for you to do something, I don't know what exactly, I'm just thinking that we could do something together with Accent Business Academy for these young ones. And maybe you think about it, I'll also think about it from my end, and then we'll put heads together, and also hands and hearts together to do something great. Sincerely, I'm ever so excited to follow you, which I know you also know, even when you're outside the country. And it's exciting to see the great things that you're doing. I'm so glad you also gave examples, from your background, Akure, Adeshida Road, or Shile. So our young ones will know that, look, this is a homeboy. Not only that it's possible for you to grow from Igbara, and from Igbara to Igbara. Then, of course, to the utmost parts of the world. Sincerely, would want to say a big thank you for whoever is on this platform who doesn't know. This is under the auspices of Accent Business Academy. Accent Business Academy was put together for young people to not only just express themselves, but to get, to get the kinds of the face that Nigeria would ordinarily presently not give to you, but you need, and which you would not get in your higher institutions, but you also very, very much need. So this is who we are, and this is our 4th anniversary, the Accent Business Academy. accent also itself works on entrepreneurship. We've done entrepreneurship or teenpreneurship with Place College. We've done teenpreneurship with Preston International, and we'll do with other institutions that are quite willing. So thank you very, very much, dear Gbenga Sesan. I call him Gbenga Sesan of Africa, and I indeed, I'm glad that he never he never rated himself lower, because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is just there. I recall when I was in Rwanda, somebody said, look, I can cite in Nigeria from 100 meters away. I said, how do you know in Nigeria? I said, Nigerians are very competitive. Nigerians are very vociferous. Nigerians are very bold. And I said, well, good enough. All of these are compliments as far as I'm concerned. So, of course, I'm sure Gbenga has told you everything about how you need to blow your own trumpet and, of course, be the very best of whom God has created you to be. It's on this note we'd like to call it quits on the program today. Tomorrow is another big day. We're hosting Kemi Gbadamosi. Kemi Gbadamosi also grew up from Akure, Federal University of Technology in particular. And she's going to be talking about what we call passionomics, the bliss of creativity. I tell you, the people who are ruling the world today are people, you know, in the creative industry. And Kemi is one of them, an award-winning girl, all over the place, creating films, creating cartoons, videos. And Kemi will always tell you, I remain a Christian any day. And sincerely, nobody beats her to her game. Thank you very much once again, everybody. We're glad to have had you. May I, on your behalf, again, appreciate Gbenga Sesan for having been here. And I believe that, like I have requested, that we'll do something great together. God bless us all. God bless Nigeria. And of course, God will bless Nigeria as you do the right things for Nigeria. Thanks. God bless us. Bye.
There's something great in me, oh, a strength in me, oh, a power in me, oh, it makes me wanna fly. Do you wanna fly? Yes. Get me out and fly. Do you wanna fly? I've got the continent. I can fly, soaring in the sky. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly with enterprise. something great in me, oh, a strength in me, oh, a power in me, oh, it makes me wanna fly. Do you wanna fly? Yes. Tell me how to fly. Do you wanna fly? I've got the continent. I can fly.